In today's video, we're going to get a perspective from a parent's point of view. Stay tuned. Hey sitters, welcome back to another video. It is Lydia, thanks for joining me. And today I am here with Katie, who is a client of mine. I've been working with her family for 2 years now, and I wanted to sit down with her to kind of get a perspective on how she hires a babysitter, how she goes about finding a babysitter, kind of just a deep dive into what a parent looks for when hiring a babysitter overall. And then also after the babysitters leave, how do they go about knowing if they want them to come back? First of all, thank you for sitting down and doing this with me. I really appreciate your time. I want these guys to understand what it is like from your end and your perspective for going about this, just because I think it'll really help us open our eyes to, oh, that's not what they want to see, or this is what they want to see and they want more of that. So my first question is, how old were your kids when you first hired a babysitter?
Yeah, that's such a great question, because how old were they when I wanted to hire a babysitter? Very young. How old were they when I actually felt like I had found somebody that I could trust, that was a good fit for our family? My kids were a little bit older. They were 2.5 and 5.5. I have 2 girls. And frankly, I had just gotten to the point where I knew that I was not equipped to give them a great experience in my house. 2 kids running around with a frazzled mom who was working. I knew that I needed somebody else to come in and really play with them and love on them and enjoy them and actually, help them become the kids and young adults that I hoped that they would become. So yeah, they were a little bit older compared to my friends, but that was mostly because I just didn't feel like I knew someone that I could trust to have in my house with my kids.
Yeah, it's very difficult. Trust is a hard thing to go about finding in somebody else. So how did you go about finding this person when you did hire them?
This was one of the most challenging things, and I didn't know. I thought, okay, changing diapers is going to be hard. Picking your kid's school is going to be hard. Navigating sleepless nights. No, actually finding somebody that you really believe has your kid's best interest in mind and is going to be responsible and communicate effectively with you and keep your kids safe. That was one of the most difficult things that I found as a parent. And so I did a lot of the things that probably every parent does. I looked online, I looked at different caregiver directories, I asked my friends. Finding trusted online sources to me was not actually a path that worked. I really thought, okay, if I just invest in the money, I just did not feel like that was the relationship I wanted. And here's the other thing I didn't know. When you ask your friends, even your best friends, they don't want to give up their trusted babysitter. Yeah. They want to make sure that their babysitter is available on Friday and Saturday nights or can continue to nanny. So even when I would ask my friends, sometimes it was difficult to get that person. Eventually, thank goodness, that is what actually happened. I was able to ask enough people and pester enough people, and probably I looked so tired. I had bags under my eyes. I said, I need help. Finally, I was connected with somebody who was able to come in, and thankfully, she was so good that it built the trust and the faith that I had that I could do this. Once she was no longer available, I could do this again. So that first experience with finding somebody, I honestly think if that had gone poorly, I don't know if I ever would have found you. I don't know that I ever would have given my kids the opportunity to meet such incredible babysitters, and they have been able to do that now.
Yeah, nice. That network is really, really important. But like you said, some parents don't like to share.
They really don't. At least my friends didn't.
So that's where I did a video on resources, being a resource for your families and building those connections with other babysitters and not looking at them as such competition, but building that network with other babysitters so you can say, hey, I'm not available, but so-and-so is, and I know they've been babysitting for this many years and I trust them, and therefore you should put your trust in them as well.
Yeah. And I think just to follow up on that point, when I was going to these online directories where I had no referral, I had no connection, I felt like part of the challenge there was I was having to look at their resume, look at their testimonials. It didn't feel like I had that connection. I didn't have a friend that could say, oh, actually, this looks really good on paper, but is this person good? I still do my due diligence. I still ask all the questions. But now if a friend or if you were to say, hey, Katie, I'm not available on Saturday, but I know these 2 people who can help, I don't feel like I have to do that same deep dive. I really feel like, okay, I believe in Lydia. I believe in my friend, whoever is making the referral. And outside of the normal questions, I just don't feel like I have to do that whole resume deep dive. So that's why, you know, to your point, like me understanding and putting so much trust in you and having built that trust means that anybody that you now refer me out to, it's like, are you available? Or do you seem like a good person? Okay, and let's go. I'm ready for date night or whatever it is.
Not only that, but I know your kids. I know your kids' personality, and I know my referral babysitters, what their personalities are like, and I would probably mend those two personalities together, and I know what your kids need and want. So I definitely think going that route with, like you're saying, if you're going online and trying to find somebody, it really is hard to say, okay, well, do they have the personality to entertain my kids in the way that I'm looking for, in the way that your kids are looking for? I mean, they're older now.
Right.
So they can tell you what they're looking for and what they like and don't like. But you can't see somebody's personality through a screen.
That's exactly right.
Really
and you know, my kids don't have any particular special needs, but very close friends of mine do. And I know that that's a factor for them as well. And so even in that case, just a babysitter who is good and competent and safe isn't necessarily going to be a good fit. But I know you, and I now know the network of incredible babysitters in the area. We're able to say, hey, this person has a child who has this special need or this special requirement. I know that you have that experience, or I know that you've done that before. And I just have to tell you that means the world to a parent to know that somebody is, like I said, thinking of their kid's best interests.
Yeah. So your kids are old enough to talk to you about their babysitter after the babysitter's gone. What is it that you look for in that babysitter, but then also what your kids find interesting or what they look for in a babysitter? What does that conversation look like?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, when my kids are stuck at home with me, they're bored. When the babysitter comes, like, this is as exciting for them as it is for me to go on a date night or go out to an event. So I think the first thing is just I pick up on my kids' energy. Are they genuinely excited for this babysitter to come or to come back? And when they're telling me about it that night or the next day, do I have to pull them back? Do I have to say slow down? That to me is always a really good sign. So I would say for me, it's less about, you know, what did they do? Of course they're going to eat their food. Of course they're going to go to bed, brush their teeth. Of course they're going to have an activity. But were my kids actually excited about it? And that's a hard thing to articulate because, you know, I just know my kids. I know when they've had a good experience and are begging for the next one. But I do definitely like to see, you know, can they tell me we did something that wasn't just sitting in front of the TV. We did something that was a little bit enriching and had an activity. So I think those are the things. And I know that when I ask my kids, they know I'm not asking for the checklist. They just tell me, just like I would at school, how was the day? What did you do? And I know in an instant, were they excited? Were they bored? Did they feel unsafe? My older daughter, who's 10, we have a lot of conversations about safety. It's a girl, so I'm probably a little bit more cautious and aware of, you know, how is she feeling with her friends at school, with her. And so we have conversations like that, and I would know in an instant if she felt unsafe. And so she's really my barometer. And if she is not indicating that at all, I'm like, this is a home run. You know, the things that for me as a mom would be real issues would be red flags. There's just a couple of very specific things. You know, we're a non-smoking house, and whatever a babysitter chooses to do outside of my home is her choice. But also, I'm not super comfortable with somebody that would come in and, you know, obviously had the smell of cigarette smoke or vape, you know, that type of thing. And you know, I also would prefer that not be done, obviously, around my kids or even brought into my house. That feels like bare minimum, but it is definitely something for my family that's important, being around my kids. And I think, again, just sort of paying attention. You know, the one and only critical, important rule is, are my kids safe? Right? But beyond that, I don't want to hire and invest in a babysitter and ask them to come into my home if that's the only thing. So are they doing things to entertain my kids? Like I said, I'm not super strict on screen time, but I would prefer it if they were doing some type of activity or cooking or drawing or reading or something outside. And so, you know, if I were to ask my kids, what did you do? And we sat in front of the TV, that's a conversation that I would have with the babysitter.
I was going to ask, how many is a 3-strike, you're out kind of rule? Is there, because some parents say, yeah, she was on her phone, but She came in, I could feel she was having some maybe issues at home that she had to attend to on her phone, which is okay. But the second, third time that she's on her phone the entire time, that's when it's like, all right, that's got to go.
Well, there's something, so I run a business and I work with clients all the time. And here's something I've learned in my business that I now apply to any conversation I have, even if it's with a teacher, a babysitter, a doctor. And the phrase is, people can't meet expectations that you don't set. So one thing that I have learned, and I think this makes me a better parent to babysit for, because this is very much a two-way street.
Yes,
I know that there are probably parents that are not somebody that a babysitter would want to work with.
Absolutely.
So I really always want to be cognizant of this really has to feel like it is a win-win for everybody. But the way that I think I've been able to successfully do that with babysitters that have worked with me is to just say from the beginning, this is not a punishment. This is not you did this and now I've got to address it. Hey, when you come to my house, here are the things that I expect.
Yeah.
I don't mind my kids watching a movie, but I'd really like it to be for less than an hour. I'd like to make sure that their teeth are brushed and that they're in pajamas and that X, Y, and Z has happened. I'd like for them to get at least 20 minutes of outside time, even if it's just cartwheeling in the backyard.
Yeah.
So I think that I have become a better parent to babysit for because I'll say that from the beginning. And that, to your point, is if I find out from my kids, hey, the person was on the phone the whole time, I'm able to recall that conversation. Hey, as we discussed, my expectation is that that's probably not something we do.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's better, or I'm more willing to give the opportunity for that feedback.
Good.
I have a problem punishing or coming down hard on a babysitter who maybe if I had just told her, hey, I'd really rather you're not on your phone a lot in front of my kids. After they go to sleep, you do whatever you need to do. But so like if I've said that to me is different.
Yeah.
So I think that's just one thing. And I would say that babysitters can really empower themselves by saying, hey, I want to make sure that I'm meeting your expectations. What are the things that you would prefer I not do? Yeah. I have a friend who truly does not care.
Yeah.
It's a very different thing and that works for her family. And so again, I would say that would be something that a babysitter could do to really make sure it's a success. But beyond that, it's a great question. I luckily have not been in the position where I've had to let a lot of babysitters go, mostly because when I find a good one, I hang on to her or him as long as I can. I try to make it really hard for them to quit me.
Yeah.
But I would definitely say I would have the conversation and say, if we have another stay, I just want to be really clear. This to me is not something that would be acceptable, but but it's,
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Please.
We definitely, I'm pretty sure I've said this in videos before of if a parent doesn't come to you with expectations, go to them with expectations of, okay. Like,
that really impresses me, by the way, if somebody does that, because I understand you're not just showing up to make some money and hang out. This is like, you see this as a real opportunity and a job.
Yeah.
And that always makes me feel more confident. Like you're proactively looking, how can I make this a great experience? And that type of babysitter, man, now I'm the mom that doesn't want to give that name away because I want you every Friday night.
Yes. Yeah. When you are a babysitter, you're not going in there, oh, this is just a side gig. This is just for extra money. That's not what a parent wants to hear.
No.
I mean, to think of your kids as just another side job or just some extra money on the weekends is really hurtful sometimes. If I came in and was like, yeah, I'm just here to make some extra money. It's like, that's not right. These are my kids that you're taking care of. So to go in with expectations and kind of blow the parents away is something you want to do. And by saying, okay, I'm going to meet your expectations, or we haven't had that. Some parents are not very forward like that, and you do need to bring it to their attention of like, hey, what do you want the night to kind of look like? What are we allowed to do? What are we not allowed to do?
Yeah, I love that. And I think, again, just that conversation, I would really love to have that. If a babysitter came to me and just opened that up, man, like everything else, the rest of the night, I would feel better about what was happening in my house. So,
do you like when babysitters check in?
That's such a great question.
During your date night, do you like babysitters check in?
So my personal preference is that the first couple of times that a babysitter would stay, I do. I tend to like over communication, right? And it can literally just be a text, everything's great, kids are in bed, or we just finished up cartwheeling in the backyard, we're moving on to dinner. I really like that because I am enough of a worrywart parent that, just understanding things are good. I move on. But I will tell you, again, back to the expectation game, after the first visit or two, I really trust, and I've had the great fortune to work with some incredible babysitters. I know that they care as much about my kids as I do, at least during the time that they're there. And that is such a confident feeling that I've also said, and I don't know that every parent does this, but I will say, again, main goal is my kids are safe, right? I come back to kids. That's the end game. But, also, if they fall down and skin their knee, I trust that you're going to take care of it. If it's escalated to something more, please call me. Yeah. You're not going to be in trouble. I understand kids bump into things.
Yes.
Things happen. Things break. I've said this to every babysitter. Nothing in my house is precious.
Yeah.
Please try not to break everything, but if things break, it happens. But I trust that you're going to take care of it. And if I come back at the end of the night and you tell me, hey, I had to put a Band-Aid on Remy and we broke this vase, I don't need to hear that, in real time. But again, I think that just comes back to the trust factor. And if I know that the babysitter is making the best judgment and kind of saying, like, what would Katie do, then I don't need to hear it in real time.
Yeah. Some of my parents are those parents who do need, even after the first, second one, they do need that reassurance. And you can really kind of figure that out if they're texting you through their date night. Like, I don't think I've ever gotten a text from you guys of, hey, how's the night going? So after those first couple of those nights, but I have other clients, and I'm sure that you've come across them as well, that they are texting you every 20, 30 minutes. So just be proactive and text them first. Like, hey, here's what's going on. Everything's good. Yep. And I think that's
and again, important. I would say it's not about the trust. If a babysitter is getting those text messages and it feels like, man, they don't trust me, they feel like they're having to watch me, then I would say have that conversation with a parent. Hey, if you want me to be texting you every 30 minutes, I'm happy to do that. If that makes you feel more comfortable and enjoy your night out, very happy to do that. But is there anything that is concerning you? Because I agree. I think some parents would just feel more comfortable if they knew every 30 minutes I'm getting a text. That's part of the job. But I would just say if a babysitter is getting those text messages, feel free to ask the parent, hey, happy to do this, but is there a reason that you're feeling like you need this validation? And maybe the parent just needs to be told, hey, it's okay. I will call you if my kid is bleeding. I will call you if something happens.
Speaking of trust, did you ever at one point have cameras?
No. And I know that a number of my friends do, not specifically for a babysitter. It's funny, the only reason I paused is because we actually have a camera in our house that tracks the dogs. And I make a point of turning that off if we have guests or if we have a babysitter in my home. Number one, if I were ever going to do that personally, I would feel the need to disclose it. Right? And again, I think every parent will make his or her choice, but I don't feel comfortable having a hidden camera for the purposes of trying to catch bad action. Maybe that is because my kids are old enough to speak with me and I think feel safe in telling me, hey, I didn't like this or this happened. If my kids were younger, I might feel differently. But no, I just really, again, I think it comes down to, do I feel like this babysitter is a trusted family member when they're in my house, in which case I don't need to have cameras on them.
Yeah, I guess if you can't trust them, they should not be in your house.
Right. But I would say, like, in general, if I were advising a babysitter, it's like anything else. Listen, I lose my temper. I have to discipline my kids. I have to raise my voice sometimes. I would not expect that a babysitter doesn't have those moments. Sometimes kids are naughty. Sometimes kids are doing something unsafe, and I'd much rather have the babysitter yell, scold, do whatever it takes to keep my kids safe. But on context of video, I think that could sometimes be difficult to read the full, or again, even having a kid, oh, Lydia yelled at me, Sally yelled at me. Okay, again, I understand parenting enough to know sometimes that's what's required. That's what's necessary to keep them safe. But yeah, I would just say, in general, like anything else, I always live my life as though somebody is recording me. I just think we're in that day and age. And so it's whatever the old adage is, do act as though someone's watching you, do the right thing. Treat the kids with respect. I think that's really important. And I don't care if it's a baby or if it's a 15-year-old that you're watching, you have to treat the kids with respect and age appropriate behavior. 100%. And just assume that a parent is watching you. If a babysitter is watching this, and I can't imagine that somebody with low integrity is watching this and trying to develop their skills, so I think we've probably already, exceeded that bar. But if a babysitter is watching this and thinking, oh, I have to act right because a camera's on me, you're
You
probably not
probably-
in the right
Correct.
position. If you are saying like it would be okay with me if a camera caught this, because I know I could tell the parent,
This
yeah,
is
you
why.
did hear me say this, or you did see me act this way, but it's because your kid was about to jump off the counter, which, by the way, my kid has tried to do with a babysitter. So this is a very real use case.
Yeah. Well, and we also talk about that. In some cases, it's good to have a camera. One of my clients' kids is a liar, and they know that. They've come to me before they even leave the house. Wants you to know he'll lie his way to whatever he wants, whatever he's gonna get. And when we come home, I'm sure he'll make up a couple things about you that probably aren't true. And they have cameras to figure out if what he's saying is true or if it's not true at all. And in that case, that helps us as babysitters. Like, please go watch that video. I did not do that at all. I did because, I mean, they come up with crazy things.
Of course.
You want to be safe. So I was just asking as for whether, I guess your kids were a little older when you first started hiring a babysitter, but parents who can't have that conversation with their kids definitely.
Yeah, I would
want
say
to
the
have
only
that.
exception is, and again, my kids were a little bit older when I first hired a babysitter, but we always had a camera on the crib. Even when my daughter was 2.5, and maybe in the early days when we did have it, I always had one on the crib.
Yep.
So there were definitely things that if I needed to review or poke in live, I could have done, and I think that maybe would be the exception.
Yep.
You know, is my child being treated nicely
Fairly,
and put to bed safely?
Yeah. Okay, so I've talked to you guys in other videos about how important it is to get families on the calendar before you even leave a job. You guys have me the first Saturday of every month for regular date nights.
Yes.
How beneficial has that been for you guys?
Not to be over dramatic, it has changed my life. It really has. I remember when I first reached out to you, and this is a common thing that I hear from parents, by the way, my friends, which is, you know, in my case, we were coming out of the pandemic. We had been locked in the house together. I knew that for my marriage, for my friendship with my husband, and for, frankly, my kids, I needed to get out of the house. And if I didn't have it on the calendar, it wouldn't happen. A weekend would come up and I go, oh, I should have done it. And so when I first started working with you, I remember us saying, can I please just lock you in? What is it going to take? If I know that the first Saturday of every month is date night, then I will go on that date night. It makes me, it's improved my marriage. It has improved my relationship with my kids. It has, frankly, very selfishly given me something to look forward to every month. And I know that if that wasn't already booked, I would never do it. So it has been really, really important to me and to my husband and to my kids, who now, by the way, know that when I say, oh, this Saturday is date night, they also know it's babysitter night. Like they are as excited for that night as I am. And that's the other reason it's important for me. I get to go have this connection with my husband and do something outside of being a parent, which is a full-time job.
Yes.
I get out of the house. And then again, my kids really get to benefit from having this person that they have come to love, and they get so excited for that. So I would say of all the things I've done for my family, this is in the top 5 most important things that I've ever done, and I'm just thankful that we were able to find you and that other babysitters are willing to make that commitment and just get it locked on the calendar.
Wow. And that is huge. That's really big on your end. And as a babysitter, that's why I rarely cancel on families. If I do, it's an emergency and I'm really not feeling good because of that point right there. I don't know if you know, I have a Wednesday night regular every Wednesday night and every Friday night as well, and they have said the same exact thing. It changes their marriage, it changes their child's life, that they get to kind of interact with somebody that's not in the household, and they that interaction is kind of, I mean, they have school teachers and they know how to interact with that, and but it changes perspective in the family, and it's really important. So when we've talked about making sure that you're getting families on the calendar before you leave, explain to them that it is important. It is important to have time as adults away from the children, and it's important for the children to have somebody else come in, and not that we're in there being mean and telling them what to do. We're in there to have fun.
You walk in with the biggest smile. That's the other reason I know that, if your babysitter's not walking in or if you are not walking in genuinely excited to be with the kids, then it might be a red flag for you. But and we were talking earlier, the two hardest things for me about finding and booking a babysitter, one, finding somebody I trust. Okay, well, I don't have to find anyone ever again. I can just get this person to keep coming back. That takes that off. And then actually like the act of booking. Oh, are you available on this time? So if I know that every first Saturday or whatever it is that you're booking, that's just, I don't need to even go back and forth other than just a quick confirmation. And like you said, if something has to change, if there's a conflict, then we are able to talk about it ahead of time. Oh, I'm going to be on vacation that weekend. Can I push it to another day?
Absolutely.
We just move it. If I had to spend every month navigating, oh, can you come this Friday, next Friday, this time, I just wouldn't do it.
Yeah. Well, also, that same thing on my end of I block that time for you guys, and that way I can plan my calendar and plan all my other families around you guys. And if we do have to move it, we have to move it. But it's not a cancellation. It's a reschedule. A lot of my clients who are not on regular date night, if they have to cancel, it's a complete cancellation and it's not a reschedule, which I wish it was a reschedule, and working on that piece is important as well. So I think it's great.
And we always confirm it when you're leaving. Okay, so just checking Saturday X date works for you. We look at the calendar, and if we're good to go, we're good to go. If not, we'll switch it usually when we're together, and that way you walk out knowing you've got the booking, and I go to sleep knowing, okay, I've got Lydia for another date night.
Yeah. Well, thank you again so much for your time, for your knowledge on this subject, because it really, from a babysitter's point of view, it is important to kind of see the other end of it and how does that work, because some of these guys, I'm sure, go in being like, well, I am fun and I keep the kids safe, but sometimes it's not only just about that. Why are they not booking me? Maybe it's because the family, like you said, it comes to a weekend and it's like, man, I didn't get somebody on the calendar. So maybe it's not that it's you, maybe it's them, and you just need to be in their face a little bit more about getting on the calendar. So thank you.
Oh my gosh, it's my pleasure, and best of luck to everyone who's watching this. The more talented, passionate babysitters in the world, the happier the parents will be.
Yes, absolutely. Alrighty guys, if you have any questions, please let me know down in the comment section below, and I will see you in the next video.